My name is Mariam Namiya. I'm a civil engineer by profession, a registered engineer with the Engineers Registration Board. So I'm licensed to practice engineering in Uganda. I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering and also in the final stages of my master's degree in civil engineering. I have been practicing for over 10 years now. I also own a company called Reenboog Construction Services that is basically an implementer of construction projects. And I'm very happy to be here and to be hosted by Just for Women Africa.
What inspired you to pursue a career in civil engineering?
First of all, I've always been good at sciences. That's math, physics, chemistry, and biology. So I always knew my career path would be somewhere along the lines to something to do with sciences. But I've also always been fascinated by unique buildings. I remember one time I was moving with my mom. I was about 17 in the car, and I saw a very uniquely shaped building. And I thought to myself, wow, I wonder who the engineer was on that project or who the architect was. So I wanted, and I said one day I should be part of something like that. So I worked towards that, and at the end of my high school, which should be my senior six, I was torn in between taking architecture and civil engineering. But with some career guidance, I managed to zero down on civil engineering. Why? Because it's very broad. Civil engineering is very broad in that you can work in roads, you can work on structures, you can work in drainage, water, you can also work in traffic. So, given that it had those many options, I chose to go for it because I knew I would have a lot to learn and a lot to choose from.
Were there any early challenges you faced as a woman entering the engineering field?
Yes, first of all, the major challenge you face as a woman in engineering, of course, it goes without saying that engineering is a male dominated field. So you find that out of 10 people on a project, maybe one is a woman. So that in itself is a lonely space for a woman to work in. And also being that it's male dominated, the way in our nature as women, we are very different from men. So you have to learn to think like men, to work like them in order to be able to fit in. And secondly, a woman who's doing the same job as a man, naturally, it is assumed before looking at the CV, before looking at the qualifications, the experience, it is naturally assumed that this gentleman is going to do the job better than you. So you have to work twice as hard to prove yourself that you can do the job either equally or better than him. So there's a lot of work you have to do as a lady to be able to be seen as good as your male counterparts.
What inspired you to start your own company and pursue a career in entrepreneurship?
Well, I've always wanted to start a construction company. When I was 18 years old, in my final year of high school, I wrote it down in my diary as one of my future goals. That was at 18 years old. Fast forward at 26 years old, um, I I was having a talk with my dad, and he was telling me, he asked me, Mariam, why don't you start a construction company? Because I've noticed most of our construction companies are owned by businessmen. But you're an engineer, you have the technical expertise. So how wouldn't it be nice if someone with the technical know-how could actually own a construction company? And that is the truth. Most of our construction companies are indeed owned by businessmen who just employ engineers to work in their companies. So I thought about that, and that is when I got the actual courage to start Reenboog Construction Services, and that was in 2017.
Since starting your engineering company in 2017, have you faced challenges securing projects because you're a woman?
We do get jobs, yes. But as I said earlier, you have to prove yourself right off the bat before someone knowing you and who you are. It's it's very easy for them to assume that you might not be able to execute the job to the right, maybe quality, or in the right in the time that they've specified for you. So, or be able to manage the gravity of the job. So there's a lot of convincing that has to be done initially. That is why I actually employ or prefer to work with many men on my team, because it makes it easier for people to see, to buy into, you know, to buy into you earning that job. So there is that. But also, I've been able to build my brand personally. So, in building my brand, people know me even before they know my company. So when they know that it's me they are working with, it's easy to convince them, for them to believe that what they will get is going to be of good quality. So there's also that it's not only the company but also the owners, the founders of a company. Your brand matters, because people gravitate towards you as an individual more than the company. Yes, so that has been able to help me a lot.
Do you think you will still secure contracts if your engineering company were all entirely made up of women?
Honestly, I don't think so. I don't think so, because of course we've made great progress if you're to compare with maybe 10, 15 years back, in terms of including women in in the male dominated spaces. But there's still a lot to do in terms of perception. So if I'm to imagining, if the company was purely women or ladies, I don't think we would be able to get half the work we have got, because there's still that perception about women not being able to deliver at least as well as men.
Can you tell us more about your experience working on the Kampala Massacre Road construction after the floods in 2023?
So in May 2023, we experienced very heavy rainfall, and these rains damaged um, parts of Kampala Massacre Road, yeah, in 2023. So with that, um, the government uh, decided to procure a contractor and a consultant to work on these damaged sections. But I'd like to point out that the Kampala Massacre Road is a very major international route, because it connects to Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda, and Eastern DRC. So very, very important in terms of business, and that that means it's one of the most urgent projects in Uganda right now. So there's been then a very huge need to have teamwork on the project, and also people who are very technically sound, which we've managed to have. We've had to work with tight deadlines. We've been able to, because there's a Katonga bridge which fell in, and for some time there was no traffic passing there. So business costs went up, because people had to get alternative routes to pass, which put their operation costs up. Were able to put together a temporary bridge as we construct a permanent bridge, and this was able to restore a traffic flow. So at least we are proud of that, and we've also been able to impact the community. You see, when you have a project like that, it's not only you don't only look at the road that you're putting back, or the project, the bridge, but also the community has to benefit in one way or another. We have a camp where the staff are housed, and where we work from, the offices. So we make sure we employ people from the neighboring communities, and in that we're able to create employment opportunities. and to see that the community does not only benefit from the road that they are going to use, but also from the entire period, during the entire period when the project is being executed. There's been sensitization for HIV and AIDS, so there's a lot of education that has gone on. Yes, so there's a lot, but at least for now, we are happy with the progress we've made, and hopefully we shall be done by end of 2026. Yes.
Now, as a board treasurer of UNABSEC, what new initiatives are you most excited about?
At UNAPSEC, I serve as the treasurer of a board of directors, and we are going to have the standard gauge railway, the Kampala bit. There's been the Kenyan bit was completed, and now we are we are going to start construction of Kampala bit. With this standard gauge railway, the SGR, it's a 2.8 billion euro project, and of it 40% has been allocated to local content, and that means there are a lot of opportunities for our members to tap into. So that alone is something we're excited about. This project is set to start in May 2025, and that is next month. So we are trying to position our members to be able to tap into those opportunities. That is part of financial sustainability for our members. We are also looking at expanding our member growth to be able to have a stronger voice. And also we are looking at capacity building for our members. We connect the bigger farms to the smaller farms so that we can have capacity building amongst our members, and also with contracting farms that might not necessarily be our members. Last year, we pushed for a supplementary budget to be passed because we still have actually the major challenge that contractors in Uganda are facing is delayed payments, especially on government funded projects. So we had a lot of efforts, advocacy efforts, pushing for a supplementary budget to be passed so that we can have most contractors paid, because they are the UNRA, which is the Uganda National Roads Authority, had a debt towards contractors of about 1 trillion. And that's a lot of money. And we had a lot of our members crying because of debt, and property was in the banks. So a success we're able to register early this year is that the government passed a supplementary budget of 4.2 trillion, and of that 500 billion was allocated towards clearing these areas for local contractors. So those are some of the things we are pushing for to make sure we have, a favorable environment for our contractors to work in.
How important is industrial collaboration between governments, private firms, and professional bodies like UIPE and UPSEC?
So you see, UNAPSEC is the National Association of Builders, Suppliers, and Engineering Contractors. Under UNAPSEC, we have key players in the construction industry, mainly contractors, but we also have manufacturers. When government collaborates with UNAPSEC, they are able to hear from what the key industry players have to say. And secondly, for one to become a member, for a company to become a member of UNAPSEC, it is vetted. We vet you on your documents. We look at your company documents, the work you've done, how professional have you been. So we pride ourselves in having genuine players. Keyword being genuine players in the construction industry. So when a UNAPSEC membership certificate is put, say, as one of the prerequisites of one during bidding for a government job, they can rest assured that part of what should I call it? Due diligence has already been done by UNAPSEC. And the same applies to UIPE. UIPE is the Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers. This mainly deals with the individual engineers. And this has the database of all the engineers. By the time someone is approved to become a corporate member of UIPE, they have gone through serious vetting. And when you employ a member of UIPE, you know that you're employing someone who has gone through some serious vetting. So that in itself promotes professionalism in the construction industry. And UIPE and UNAPSEC are also able to speak into policies that are being made and a representation of what engineers and contractors and consultants have to say. So yes, it's very important.
Where do you see Uganda's infrastructure sector heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
We're going to have a lot of growth in urbanization. As I said earlier, one of the projects we are majorly excited about is the standard gauge railway. This is supposed to take 4 years. So in 5 years, hopefully we'll have an eastern route from Kampala to Malaba of the standard gauge railway. And this is very vital in terms of business across Uganda and Kenya. Uh, Currently, as it is, the time it takes for one to travel from Kampala to Mombasa is 2 weeks. So to transport goods is 2 weeks. But with the standard gauge railway, this is going to be cut down to just merely 24 hours. So you can see the difference in that. And there are also major highways that are being constructed. We have the Kampala Jinja Expressway. That's also a major business route. We are looking forward to more and more of these, and also we have all exploration that is going on. So in 5 to 10 years, we hope to be able to start at least seeing the results of that oil exploration. Yes.
Have you faced gender biases on construction sites or in boardrooms?
Yes, of course. As I said earlier, being a woman in itself is more. I don't want to use that, but I think I'll say it. Maybe it's like a disadvantage. So you have to prove yourself a little more. Yes, I have faced gender biases in boardrooms while bidding for projects, while trying to get work, trying to pitch myself. Um, but even just in meetings, there's this tendency of some men speaking over you when you're still speaking. So there's that. And but I think the way to overcome that, first make sure you're technically sound. Make sure you know your stuff. When people realize that you actually technically sound and know what you're talking about, they will listen. Be firm, speak with clarity, speak with confidence, and then you'll be able to earn respect.
After completing your master's degree, what are your next personal or professional goals?
Well, after completing my master's degree, I wouldn't say what's next. I'll just be continuing what I've already been doing. For example, mentoring. I have been able to train the students in several technical colleges across the country, and I plan on continuing with that. And also, policies. I've been able to speak in two policies, given that I've been a board member for UNABSEC for the past 3 years. Yes, 3 years. So I've been able to speak into policies concerning the construction industry. I plan on continuing with that, and basically to be able to make my mark in the industry.
How can we encourage more women to join and thrive in the engineering and construction industry?
Firstly, we already have a few initiatives right from high school. There's the affirmative program that I don't know if it's still there, but it used to be there, where the girls are given an extra point, I think, for joining courses like civil engineering that are perceived to be male dominated. We can start from there. But then again, we can have mentorship programs for young ladies who wish to join the construction industry, and also with visible role models. I would say maybe like people who are doing what I'm doing, things that are perceived, because it's rare. I think I've seen in Uganda, I know two other farms that that are owned by women, two other construction firms. So it's rare to see a lady at the helm of a construction company or being a founder of a construction company. So we need to have role models to show to these young ladies that, see, this is possible and this is how this person did it. Platforms like Just for Women Africa are very vital in shining a light on such individuals. That in itself is mentorship, and also making workplaces friendly or supportive to the female counterparts. I can tell you I've been to a few projects where as women there's that there are certain things we need in our restrooms, where you reach a women's restroom and there's no difference between the male restroom, if I'm to say it like that. So there's need to take into such things in account, however small it might be, but it encourages women to at least feel more. It makes them feel more comfortable working in these male-dominated spaces, and also to give them a voice, to hear them out, and train them, have trainings for that are particularly aimed at women, and also mentorship programs. Yes. So I think that would do a lot in terms of encouraging younger women to come up and take up these opportunities.
What's one tool or piece of software you can't live without in your work?
I would think of two. The first one is MS Project. MS Project is very good at planning. If you want to plan projects, it helps you plan your resources, the plant, the equipment, the human resource. So I use it for all my projects, to be able to plan and execute the projects in a timely manner, and also within budget. The second one is AutoCAD Civil 3D. AutoCAD Civil 3D is mainly about design. I've been able to work as a design engineer on some projects, and that is a very vital tool to use. But even without working as a design engineer, this is a software that can be used to calculate quantities. And lately, I've been taking on so many of those roles on projects where I need to calculate quantities and costs. So AutoCAD Civil 3D makes that work easier in terms of calculating the quantities on projects. So it's something that I always have on my laptop and I always put to use. Yes.
If you weren't an engineer, what career would you have pursued?
I think I would have been a teacher. Reason being, I've lectured before. I've lectured before, and I first put a stop to it because I was handling a lot. So I couldn't give it the time it needed. But I really enjoy being able to transfer knowledge or to teach someone something they didn't know and to make them understand it. So I would be a teacher in a way. See, even with my daughter, I have a 4-year-old daughter. I'm very, very hands-on when it comes to volunteering at school. So I have days, at least once a month, I have to go to her school and teach. And that's just the early years. So that is something that just I have a passion for it, at whatever level, early years, secondary, primary, right to university. I've been able to volunteer as a teacher or a lecturer. So I think that's what I would be if I was not an engineer.